We're often misdiagnosed as burnout, depression, and anxiety. Perimenopause is this very gray area of like, how do we define it? What does it feel like? Perimenopause is a clinical diagnosis of symptoms and menstrual cycle changes, not necessarily labs. Hormones, particularly progesterone, in this particular phase of perimenopause can be so supportive, can just ease the irritability, can ease the low stress tolerance, can ease the mood swings, even ease some of those PMS symptoms.
Whenever anyone gets pregnant around me, I'm like, oh, I'm so jealous of all that progesterone.
We're not waiting till menopause. We're going to intervene right now because what happens in this transition is going to set the tone for the next 40 years.
You're listening to Be Well by Kelly LeVeque. Dr. Mariza Snyder, welcome back to the show and in real life.
Yes, Kelly, I'm so happy to have this conversation with you.
I mean, we can have so many conversations. This is your 9th book. You are a serial author. I feel like anytime there's a topic that isn't like thoroughly investigated and shared, you're like, you know what? I'll just write a book on that.
I got you.
Yeah. Well, this one's called The Perimenopause Revolution. And it was funny before the show. I'm like, well, what is it? Because I had Dr. Natalie Crawford on the show. You can tell me what infertility is. It's a year of trying to get pregnant and not getting pregnant. You can tell me what menopause is. It's a year of not having your period. Like, I feel like this is like a black box. Like, no, it's like, it's a black hole. Like, what is perimenopause? Like, how can we really define it? What does it feel like? Why is it misdiagnosed all the time? It's just so confusing. So that's why you're here.
Yeah, I love
That's
this
why you
question.
wrote the book.
Yes, that's why I wrote the book. I wanted women to fully understand what was going on with their bodies, that this is very much a second puberty. And except that in our first puberty, we were in school. Yeah. We didn't have the demands of life and children and partners and maybe aging parents. It's just a higher stakes game. And with puberty, we are ascending into our childbearing years. And in our second puberty and perimenopause, we are descending out of those childbearing years. Mm-hmm. That is what perimenopause is.
So is there, like those other definitions of like infertility and menopause, is there a way to say like, yeah, I'm definitely in perimenopause? Or is it the person's own self-diagnosis and symptoms? Or does the doctor tell you? Like, how do you know?
Well, unfortunately, there aren't a lot of clinical guidelines to guide doctors in perimenopause like there is for menopause. But perimenopause is a clinical diagnosis of symptoms and menstrual cycle changes, not necessarily labs. It doesn't like introduce itself one day in time. It's like, I'm here. Yeah. Or show up on a lab test. Oh, this is perimenopause. And even with menopause, again, we don't have a definitive lab test outside of a follicular stimulating hormone lab that's going out of range of 25.
Okay.
So how we would define it or how we would know is when we think about menopause, natural menopause is anywhere between 45 and 55 years old.
Okay.
And so if we reverse engineer the transition of perimenopause, which can be anywhere between 4 and 10 plus years. Okay. So if we know that menopause
for 10 years? Okay.
If we know that menopause can happen anywhere between 45 and 55 years old naturally, the average age being 51.6.
Okay.
Then let's reverse engineer about, let's say, 8 years from there. So on average, most women will begin to experience perimenopause around 42, 43 years old.
Hello, I'm here.
Yeah, but it can happen earlier because there are many women, including colleagues of you and mine, that go into menopause in their late 40s. And that would put them in perimenopause in their late 30s. So it really just depends on the person. I always say, ask your mom. Ask your mom when she went through menopause and then try to reverse engineer. That's the closest proxy that we have to knowing when we're going to go into menopause, and then we can reverse engineer from there.
You know what's interesting is so many women with like they say it's maybe xenoestrogens or whatever. So many young girls are they're having their period earlier. I didn't have my period until I was a sophomore in high school. I was like almost 16 years old. And my sisters were the same way. And my mom was the same way, like later to the game when it came to cycling and later to menopause. Is there any correlation there? Is that like the sort of like our runway of childbearing years? Is that
It's eggs.
Okay.
It's all about egg supply.
Okay.
And so you think about once we get into puberty, we have approximately 300 to 500,000 eggs left.
Okay.
And then we begin to cycle every single month. And we prepare more than one egg, but that one magical egg is the one that goes and gets released in ovulation.
Yeah.
By the time we are 35 years old, we have several thousand eggs left.
Okay.
The body knows it. The ovaries know it. The brain knows it. Particularly the ovaries know it.
Yeah.
And so we start to experience occasionally an ovulatory cycles.
Yeah.
And this is all based on when you started your period back, whether you were 10 or 12 or 14 years old. And then also how many children we had, if we had children at all. That can also play into how many eggs we have in reserve as we creep into menopause.
Yeah, you just like, you want to go into menopause later? Let's just like have 6 to 8
Let's
kids.
pop some kids out. Yeah.
Let's just like turn off the cycling for 10 months or longer if you're breastfeeding a lot. Wow. Okay. Got it.
And so on average for most of us, when we think about kind of those late reproductive years, it's usually after the age of 35 because we know that there's only so many eggs left for the majority of us.
Right.
And then as we start to wind those down, once we get into our 40s, we're talking about less than 10,000 eggs, maybe close to like 5,000 or 6,000 eggs.
Okay.
The body really begins to notice. And the hormone that begins to decline initially is going to be progesterone, the progestation hormone. That's on the back end of ovulation. I always say ovulation is the main event. I know that you probably just had that conversation today.
Yeah.
And the corpus luteum, which is the temporary endocrine structure that releases progesterone on the back end of ovulation, if we don't ovulate or ovulation isn't as robust as it used to be, like in our 20s and our early 30s, progesterone is going to start to falter or decline. So what we may notice is the luteal cycle begins to shorten a little bit in late reproductive, early perimenopause. We may notice PMS symptoms that used to be only 2 or 3 days are now 5, 6, 7 days. It starts to stretch. And we're noticing we just don't have the same level of resilience. So usually early perimenopause, women are noticing symptoms in the luteal phase more than they're noticing the follicular phase. They still feel good in the follicular phase, but they're beginning to notice that they're even more irritable at the end of the luteal phase. They are struggling with sleep issues more. They're noticing low stress tolerance. They're forgetting words. But again, half of the month, solid.
Okay.
The other half, things begin to falter.
I mean, that makes perfect sense to me because whenever anyone gets pregnant around me, I'm like, oh, I'm so jealous of all that progesterone because I just love, I feel like I'm a type A driver. I mean, maybe B+, not type A, but like really, I like to create and businesses. I like to go all in. I like to have lots of things on my calendar. And when I get pregnant, I'm like, oh, let's read a good like rom-com book. Wrap me in a blanket. I feel like really like cozy and calm and more grounded. And I love that feeling. So I don't want to lose progesterone because I could see how I could become pretty irritable without that. Is that like a time if you're noticing that luteal phase shortening that you would talk to your doctor about like a progesterone cream or anything like that? Or are we just like, we're just getting data at this point?
No, I think it's worth the conversation. The second you're noticing symptoms and it's affecting your quality of life, whether that's how you show up in a presentation or you're noticing you're not sleeping as well. And so it's affecting how you show up for your family. You're more irritable. You're, again, low stress tolerance. All of these things are destabilizing and can really feel like the rug is getting pulled from under us. And initially, it's easy for us to doubt ourselves. You're like, oh, is it just not enough sleep? Or am I overworking? Or am I burned out from work? Or the demands are too heavy right now? And it's often a combination of a yes and. Those are happening. But if they're starting to feel harder, like you are kind of crawling through mud to get through your day when 6 months ago or a year ago, these same demands were here and you were able to handle them pretty effortlessly, it is worthwhile to have that conversation because hormones, particularly progesterone in this particular phase of perimenopause can be so supportive, can just ease the irritability, can ease the low stress tolerance, can ease the mood swings, even ease some of those PMS symptoms. And I think women deserve to feel amazing no matter where they are in their lifespan or their health span, particularly in early perimenopause. Women do not deserve to suffer needlessly.
Right. Oh, I'm like my mom, her mom, everybody suffered needlessly for so long. So I'm curious, obviously people are using things like Aura Ring and Natural Cycles or like Flow app, Whoop, you name it, right? And you're like, okay, I'm tracking my cycle now more than ever, I think. Like for so long, even after I think it was 5th grade, sex ed, and they're like, I'm going to teach you about your cycle for 5 minutes and then let you go on with your day. No one really cared about their cycle and where it was until you want to get pregnant. How can we use like cycle tracking to start to, cycle tracking as a way to really understand like how our period is changing for perimenopause?
I love this question because this is one of the best ways to really understand what's going on. Your menstrual cycle and really reporting it is your ultimate monthly report card.
Okay.
And so you can be tracking, I think every part of the cycle is important to look at.
Yeah.
It's nice to know like when you come out of your period, menstruation, where you get that early estradiol peak, that little boost, you're like, okay, whew, I'm feeling like myself again, right? And then, I always say that everybody loves day 12 us, even ourselves, right? When we are peaked with estrogen, a little bit of extra testosterone, and we are feeling loving, we're feeling sensual, we're outgoing, we've got good energy and capacity. Like who doesn't want that version of us all of the time?
You're like, how do I rinse and repeat this every day?
Exactly. I remember getting so frustrated on day 27 because I didn't feel like day 12. And I didn't understand why. Because no one, again, 5 minutes in sex ed at 5th grade, right? No one told us what was going on with our cycle. But then we can notice, in terms of how we're feeling in the first part of our luteal phase versus the second part of our luteal phase. This is how I knew I was in perimenopause.
Okay.
It was like day 22, like clockwork, 3 months in a row. I woke up with this deep sense of dread. Like my whole world was falling apart. It was fine 2 days ago. And then all of a sudden it felt like it was insurmountable. And I was having these bouts of rage. And it was because I was tracking my cycle every single month that I was able to see. I'm like, oh, day 22, consistently. And I was like, this is perimenopause. There's it's undeniable at this point. Like this is what these symptoms are driving because I'm just not experiencing the same amount of progesterone that I had in the past. It's becoming less resilient over time. And I think when women can look at that, they can look at, okay, I'm doing great here, nothing's changing here. And then all of a sudden something's shifting here. Like they can begin to pinpoint what is going on with their bodies and what's going on with their hormones.
You all know I'm a huge believer that some of the simplest, most foundational foods can be absolute nutritional powerhouses, and high-quality milk is one of them. Protein, calcium, potassium, B vitamins, hydration, it's such an easy way to support both adult and childhood nutrition every single day. For a long time, milk just wasn't something our family could enjoy. When my boys were little, they had milk allergies, and when I was nursing, I couldn't have it either. Now that milk is back in our lives, I'm really intentional about what we choose. And Pioneer Pastures has become the only milk I buy for my family. It's A2 only dairy, which many people, including us, find easier to digest. It's ultra filtered, so you're getting more protein, less sugar, and this incredibly clean, fresh taste. It's honestly the closest thing you can get to clean, raw-style milk at a normal grocery store. We use it all the time, in smoothies and coffee and baking, and my boys can even drink it from a glass after school. It's one of those small foundational swaps that makes a real difference in how we all feel and function. This month, Pioneer is celebrating its 1-year anniversary, which is wild because in just 12 months, families around the country have already enjoyed over 15 million servings of Pioneer. And to celebrate, they're offering my listeners an exclusive BOGO deal. Buy one product, get one free. You can claim it at www.pioneerpastures.com/1-year. Again, that's www.pioneerpastures.com/1-year to grab the offer. You can also find Pioneer Pastures at Target and Sprouts. It's such an easy, impactful nutrition upgrade, and I hope you try it. Wow, you're even like breaking phases into like multiple phases. So like between like when you look at the cycle and you're tracking for perimenopause and those symptoms and signs, not just like, all right, I started my period, track it. I ovulated, track it. Like, how are you breaking up the cycle to look for symptoms around
That's
perimenopause?
a great question. So I break up the cycle not in basically 4 phases.
Okay.
So I'm looking at first day of that cycle is menstruation. You know, what is the quality of your period? Is it more heavy? Is it lighter? Does it take a minute to like jumpstart? You know, those are important cues.
Like a little spotty, and then I'm going.
Exactly, and that's that low levels of progesterone that are not holding the endometrium together. You start to see a little spotting. You're like, is this actually the first day of my period, or is it going to happen tomorrow? This is really good data for us. And then, how long is it? Are we looking at 4, 3, 5, 7 days? And then when do you start to feel like yourself again, in that follicular phase? You've been in the follicular phase from menstruation, but like when is it really kicking in where you feel estrogen show up to the party?
Yeah, you're like 10, 11, 12. Let's party.
Exactly. So it used to be day 5 where you were just like, let's do this. I'm back. And now it's like day 7, day 8. Is that estradiol peak at day 11, day 12 peaking? Or is it not? Is it a little bit more lackluster than it used to be? So, remembering how you're
like, am I just old or am I low on estradiol?
Exactly. And again, this is usually later in perimenopause where all of a sudden that estradiol peak is just, it doesn't feel as good as it used to feel. You're like, I'm supposed to feel amazing right now. This is like the best day of my month. And it's just I'm not feeling so shiny.
Yeah.
And then ovulation. Are we ovulating this month? Is this an anovulatory cycle? What does that mean for progesterone on the back end of that cycle or in the luteal phase? And then how long in the luteal phase are you feeling pretty good? Do you have resilience? You've got energy, you've got capacity. You can push those workouts. Yeah. Where is it in the 20s, day 21, day 24, day 26? Like how long can you go until you start to feel the mood shift, the low stress tolerance, the irritability, the sleep's getting wonky? Like all of a sudden you're craving everything, in late at night. Like when does that begin to shift? And when you're starting to collect that kind of information, especially in perimenopause, not only does that help you support yourself, like really honor you in the process, but when you go to your doctor and you are advocating for hormone replacement therapy or you're advocating for labs, you have the data to show them, I am shifting. Things are changing. I do not feel like myself anymore. I have the data to prove it.
Oh, data. Love it. So speaking of data, where do you like to track your or where do you like to suggest people track like perimenopause symptoms? Like for me, I'm using the Oura Ring. I'm using Natural Cycles.
Which I love, both of them.
Okay.
That combo is so great.
It's really nice. Like I can see like shifts in my stress and my resilience and my heart rate variability. I can track like spotting, period, I think, period. Like, yeah. But what else are you tracking? And should we, I only used luteinizing hormone strips or ovulation strips when I was trying to get pregnant. I haven't ever used them after. Would that be worth my while at this point to be like, I am still ovulating maybe, or I'm not?
I love this question.
Okay.
I think I always come from the standpoint of accessibility. Like what is accessible? I think of us both being mamas. You're a mama to 3 boys. Like you are living a very full life, Kelly.
Whew.
And so like what is accessible for you, even in terms of your time and your bandwidth?
Yeah.
Is it easy for you to just track on an app or just let Oura collect that data and look at it briefly in the morning before you get your day started?
Yeah.
Let Natural Cycles, you use the Oura data to do the job for you. Yeah. Or even just tracking, on an app, whether it's Flow or, Kindara, whatever app you prefer. Some of them are more leaning towards perimenopause, but there aren't a ton yet. Again, we have a little bit of work to do when it comes to supporting women in this phase, hence the book, The Perimenopause Revolution. But whatever's easy, if it's easy for you to just click a button on an app, you're like, I'm noticing shifts and changes. And maybe you're only tracking it when you don't feel well. Even that's important data. So whatever is easy for you, that's accessible to you, that doesn't feel like you're going out of your way significantly to do it, that would be the path I recommend.
Okay, great. Yeah, I feel like when I don't feel well, maybe popping in there and just adding some notes in sleep, Natural Cycles.
Irritability. I almost chopped my husband's head off. Like, maybe.
Yeah, I think that's probably when I will track because it feels like not too much work, but I don't have the bandwidth. I have the bandwidth to track. Yes, I started my period. Okay, I'm having my period. I track that, but I haven't really tracked ovulation since trying
and
to
I
get
don't think
pregnant.
it's necessary per se. I mean,
Okay.
some would argue, I have dear friends of mine, colleagues that are like, hey, they track their basal temperature every single day. They're looking at cervical fluid, there are all these things. And I don't necessarily know if that is like a game changer in terms of understanding symptomology and how to advocate.
Okay.
If that works for you, by all means, but I don't know if that's going to really gear you towards the level of care that you're looking for or a level of advocacy, or would it even shift the way that you're thinking about how you're taking care of yourself? I would say more so kind of symptom-driven, cycle change-driven. I think that's enough of the data to really help support you.
Okay. So let's go into cycle changes that we should be looking for and symptoms we should be looking for. You talked about that luteal phase shortening. So then you would see the shortening of your entire cycle, right?
Over time, yeah.
Over time.
Yeah.
Okay.
And again, every woman's going to be a little bit different, but for the most part, the majority of women will notice luteal cycle changes first, as I mentioned. That's because of the progesterone and really because of ovulation or a lack thereof, or not as robust as it used to be because we're running out of eggs.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And that miscommunication between the ovaries and the brain, the HPO axis. You think about, line your boys up and do telephone.
Yeah.
That's kind of what begins to happen between the brain and the ovaries. There's just a lot of miscommunication that's happening between those two organ systems.
Okay.
Yeah.
You mentioned HPO. Can you explain what that is?
Yeah. Hypothalamic pituitary ovarian axis.
Okay.
So it's the communication between the ovaries and the brain. When we think about pituitary hormones, we're thinking follicular stimulating hormone and luteinizing hormone. These are the hormones that are prodding the ovaries to release that egg every single month. Mission critical if we're trying to get pregnant.
Yeah.
And also mission critical for ovulation, which is really, in terms of our health span, equally as important. Whether you want kids or not, ovulation is important. It's key to our overall longevity and health span. And so that communication between the ovaries and those two pituitary hormones can get a little garbled. Also, ovaries sometimes just don't listen. Like, the brain's like, we need an egg. And ovaries are like, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm going to skip this month. Like, do you?
Right. Which brings up the point. I mean, you obviously are advocating for natural cycling for overall health and lifespan over time for women who are on natural or like who are on birth control or using contraceptives like that are hormone based. Like, what is your case? Make a case for cycling and other ways of preventing pregnancy.
Yeah, I would say the gold standard of care for perimenopause still today is going to be hormonal birth control and antidepressants, which is quite depressing. Yeah. And we can do so much better than that. I know from my own standpoint, my own personal experience, like I never had done well on hormonal birth control.
Heck no.
And when we're thinking about perimenopause being a neuroendocrine transition, right? Because these hormones are not just reproductive hormones. This isn't bikini medicine that we just need to be aware of what's going on between, basically the ovaries and the boobs.
Yeah.
It's so much more than that. What about the bones and our muscle and our cartilage? What about our brain and our heart health? All of this is up for review. And so when we leverage hormonal birth control to control perimenopausal symptoms, we know that these aren't having a profound impact on other areas of the body, particularly the brain. These hormones are not crossing over the blood-brain barrier. They're not helping to mitigate the depression and the anxiety and the low stress tolerance and the irritability. And so as much as it can be supportive in terms of heavy bleeding and flooding and irregular menstrual cycles, that's kind of where the birth control pill stops.
Okay.
It really only is mitigating bikini medicine.
Yeah.
It's not helping to support all the other systems that are being impacted by these whole body hormones, not just reproductive hormones. And so if you can have a more nuanced conversation with your doctor, say, hey, I know that hormonal birth control has been the thing that you've relied on, or this is the thing that you know to prescribe. Would you be open to the conversation around hormone replacement therapy? So looking at hormones, but maybe bioidentical hormones. Or would you be open to other solutions? I think about a lot of what's going to mitigate the symptoms of perimenopause is lifestyle medicine because it's mitochondrial medicine. It's cellular energy medicine.
The New Year's resolutions have everyone thinking about change, but for me, the focus is on something that really sticks: my kids' health. With so many children growing up on ultra-processed foods, I want to give my boys a strong nutritional foundation, and that's why I love Hiya. Unlike many kids' vitamins loaded with sugar and artificial additives, Hiya delivers clean, thoughtful nutrition, 12 organic fruits and veggies, plus 15 essential vitamins and minerals. And the best part? My boys actually love them. They even enjoyed decorating their bottles with the stickers that come with your first order. Hiya makes it easy too. You get a reusable bottle with your first order, and they send eco-friendly refills each month. And here's the game changer. Hiya's Kids Daily Greens plus superfoods taste like chocolate milk, but packs 55 whole food sourced ingredients. Just mix it with milk or a non-dairy alternative, and your kids get a delicious drink that fuels their own growing bodies. We worked out a special deal for you. 50% off your first order at hiyahealth.com/Kelly. This isn't available on their regular site, so you have to go to hiyahealth.com/Kelly, spelled Kelly, and give your kids the nutrition they need to thrive.
Ugh. Everything goes back to mitochondria. Everything goes back to cell biology, like and the energy powerhouses
even
of mitochondria.
Ovulation.
I know, it's crazy. And you start to understand like the density of mitochondria and ovaries and the brain and like these places where energy is so critically important. It all kind of makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and hormonal birth control does not address that.
No, it doesn't. So let's dive into that a little bit more. You called it a neuroendocrine transition, and you want people to start focusing on mitochondrial health and lifestyle medicine. So I'm 42 years old. We talked about this before the podcast started. I'm like, define perimenopause for me. How am I going to know if I'm even going through it? Like I am cycling normally. What are some of the symptoms I'll start to experience? And let's do those first. And then let's go into lifestyle medicine and what I can do to protect mitochondrial health and the longevity of like, I don't know, regular cycling.
Feel amazing.
And feeling amazing. Okay.
I think it's important to know two things. Number one, that perimenopause is a window of opportunity because it's a window of vulnerability. Okay. This is a metabolic inflection point because these hormones, as I mentioned earlier, they are regulating and modulating multiple systems in the body, particularly at the cellular level. We're talking the mitochondria. Now, when we're talking about a neuroendocrine transition, the brain is not exempt.
Yeah.
These hormones are massively modulating and supporting the brain, particularly estrogen. Estradiol is the master CEO of the brain. And are we surprised when we are the producers of life on this planet, right? Yeah. In terms of humans. And so the estrogen is such an important part of how the brain functions and vice versa, right? There's such a very intricate and delicate communication system. But estrogen is helping the brain to drive energy metabolism. It's helping the brain to grow neurons, to drive neurogenesis. It's helping to reduce inflammation in the brain. It's helping to support serotonin and dopamine, all the important neurotransmitters. And so when estrogen begins to decline or erratically decline, because let's be honest, it's not linear.
Yeah.
It is without permission. It is erratic. So one moment estrogen is flushed in the brain, the next moment it is not. And if we're talking about a 4 to 10 plus year transition, and this is a hormone that has been rhythmically cycling consistently for 25 years, the brain is reliant on this hormone. And so you can imagine, being a CEO of your business, all of a sudden you have been showing up to your job, Kelly, from 9 to 5 for decades. Yeah. And then one day you just don't show up, but you don't tell your team, you don't Slack your team, you don't send a memo or an email, you just don't show up until like 3:00 in the afternoon. Yeah. But you stay until midnight. Okay. And then you show up again at 4 a.m., but you leave at 9. And this is what's going on. The brain is scrambling to figure out and to reorganize based on the fact that it's losing its vital hormone, its most important regulator. And that is just kind of a sampling of what is going on with the brain as the brain begins to recalibrate. As a result, 85+% of women are going to experience neurological symptoms, from sleep issues to rage to memory issues, alertness, not remembering why they walked into a room, forgetting a word mid-sentence. It is my scariest proposition of perimenopause. Is like, am I going to remember what I'm supposed to say in an interview?
Just retire from this podcast now before everything hits the fan.
And so, that mental energy begins to shift. You'll just notice like you do not feel like yourself anymore. And it's that disparity from going, from being a woman who's got edge, who's got stability, who can knock off multiple things off her checklist. She's a massive multitasker, to all of a sudden not remembering where she's supposed to be, or, just having an irritability moment.
Do I have dementia or Alzheimer's?
Exactly. And so many women, especially high level type A, or just, at the top of their game, when this begins to shift and their brain begins to reorganize, it is so deeply destabilizing.
Yeah. Oh, especially when you build your life in
career.
A specific way. How do we ease that transition if estrogen's erratic and showing up in the middle of the night? Like, how do we stabilize?
That's such a great question. So if we know that your energy metabolism, and your brain being the most energy hungry organ of the body, if that begins to decline by up to 25%, it's going to be so important to really optimize cellular energy.
Yeah.
So optimize mitochondria. And I think one of the easiest proxies for understanding what's going on is looking at blood sugar.
Yeah.
And measuring that in real time. So whether it is a continuous glucose monitor, or you're looking at blood labs, every quarter or 6 months, whatever. Again, accessibility is super important here. Start implementing strategies that are helping to stabilize your blood sugar throughout the day. Your brain is looking for just consistent energy. And it doesn't want, your mitochondria does not want the big dips and valleys, right? It wants that consistent energy throughout the day.
Yeah.
The brain is very much, it's receiving that mitochondria function. And so making sure that we are eating to support our blood sugar. And that's going to start as early as the morning and move all the way into the evening. So that's going to be the first step. Also, again, understanding your symptoms, advocating for yourself so that you're getting the right support, having the conversation about hormone replacement therapy. I no problem admitting that I'm on progesterone and estradiol, predominantly for my brain. That was the shift that I was like, no.
Yeah. I can't lose my brain. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, it feels like you're speaking a mile a minute in here and like not affected by any dips or valleys in hormones. So you clearly are.
Yeah, I'm a full body yes to hormones.
Yeah.
But I'm also a full body yes to, again, cellular energy optimization. So that's blood sugar management, that's movement, that's optimizing sleep like it is $1 million meeting. It's these important pillars that are going to future-proof your health.
Yeah.
And so the moment you begin to notice that you don't feel like yourself anymore, we're not waiting till menopause.
Yeah.
We're gonna intervene right now, because what happens in this transition is going to set the tone for the next 40 years.
When you look at people starting hormone replacement therapy and bringing that on board to support this perimenopausal transition, do people bring on progesterone first or estrogen first, or they bring them both on at the same time? Like, is there like a normal onboarding of these type of bioidentical hormones, or is it case by case?
It is case by case. That's such a great question. I will say that for the majority of patients, you're going to see progesterone come online first.
Okay.
And it's going to be really based on symptoms.
Okay.
Most doctors are not going to be looking at labs. And truth be told, labs could still look pretty good.
Yeah.
I could catch you on a great day.
Yeah.
And that happens all the time where my patients are like, I don't feel like myself, but then everything looks pretty okay.
Yeah.
Mind you, the reference ranges for these hormones are pretty wide.
Yeah, they're all over the place.
Oh my gosh. So again, you have to trust the patient. Yeah. You have to trust that, like, listen, something isn't right. I can't sleep. I have anxiety. Like, I'm really struggling. This wasn't the case 6 months ago or even a year ago. And for some women, this wasn't the case 8 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Like something is inherently different about the way that my brain's working. And so based on that, usually progesterone, but again, every woman's a little bit different. I've had colleagues and friends and patients where estrogen was lower than expected earlier in their 40s rather than in their mid 40s or late 40s.
Got it.
So it is case by case, but it's often driven by symptoms.
Yeah.
A good place and where doctors feel safe is starting with progesterone. Because again, the Women's Health Initiative has done so much damage in terms of estrogen therapy, even with the FDA removing the black box warning and guidelines changing around hormone replacement therapy. There's still so much work around the confidence for providers and even patients around hormone replacement therapy. And so progesterone feels safe. We'll usually start there. If symptoms do not get mitigated or they're still struggling in certain areas, like again, their brain is just not firing. They still feel this deep sense of dread, this anxiety, that could be estrogen as well. And luckily, a lot of hormone replacement therapy prescriptions are low dose. So again, we're not overdosing women on hormones. Like hormonal birth control is significantly higher concentrations and synthetic hormones versus hormone replacement therapy.
Which is bioidentical and microdoses, basically.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. So there's that.
It's wonderful. So when someone's coming to you with symptoms or you have a patient who's like, I'm struggling, I have anxiety, I feel a little bit crazy. Do we focus on lifestyle factors first and then intervene with hormone replacement therapy? And when it comes to like blood sugar, strategic movement, and sleep, like what are your recommendations around that to stabilize what we can stabilize?
You know, when it comes to whether you start with lifestyle management or lifestyle tools and strategies versus hormone replacement therapy, I never want a woman to be denied solutions that can help get them to the gym.
Yeah.
That can help get them motivated and confident.
Yeah.
You know, that's one of those symptoms that can be so hard to pinpoint is women will notice, like, I just don't feel as motivated or as confident. I'm having a hard time. I've been going to the gym for 20 plus years and now I'm like having to drag and will myself there.
Yeah.
That could be more of a hormone issue. Well, it definitely is a hormone issue, but hormone replacement therapy can help mitigate that to get you into the gym. So
you're not gatekeeping.
Exactly. Like I don't want to gatekeep ever, especially if it could be the turning point. It could be the light bulb moment that gets you to implement the lifestyle strategies. With that said, it's important that we're a healthy host for hormone replacement therapy. You know, I can give you estradiol or hormones, but if you're not sleeping well, they're not gonna do the job of sending messages to all over the body. Again, at the end of the day, these hormones they're chemical messengers. They are regulators. But if the body's really struggling at relaying that information or receptor sites are not receptive to those hormones, we're just not going to see symptoms be mitigated as well as we would love.
Yeah.
So it is a yes and. I think it's important for women to know that HRT is such a beautiful tool and we really have to have the lifestyle put into place. So in starting with lifestyle, again, blood sugar regulation. And I love, you know how much I love the Fab 4.
Yeah,
like I was thinking about my Fab 4 breakfast today. I had a big green juice and then I had broccoli and steak.
Yeah.
I had my electrolyte water and I had blueberries.
Amazing.
That was breakfast today. So it's
I feel like people try to reinvent the wheel. And so many times I'm like, all right, so there's some leftover chicken and some sauerkraut and like my kids' berries that they left at breakfast. And like, I'm just like throwing that stuff on a plate and calling it a meal. You know, I think people get in their heads about it. Like it has to be some Martha Stewart special recipe, start to finish. And I'm like, just fuel yourself. Protein, fat, fiber, and greens. Where is it on the plate? Let's do this.
Let's do this.
It's
really what it comes down to.
I know.
And start it first thing in the morning so that you're not crashing by late morning or mid morning.
Yeah.
And then the same for lunch and also for dinner. I'm not a big fan of snacking. I think you can drink an electrolyte water and you can get outside and take a little walk.
Yeah.
If you're needing an energy boost, like we can mitigate that energy slump by just stepping away from the computer for a couple of minutes and doing some exercise snacks or getting outside in nature and just taking a quick little walk and then getting back to it. So I usually feel like those cravings are an unmet need for something else, or we're just overstressed and we've just been at the computer way too long that day.
You're like, dopamine hit, ultra processed foods, let's do it. No.
Not at all. And then building in time for you. You know, we are very much the sandwich generation where we are taking on the needs of our family. What is it? I think the average child asks 400 questions or has 400 requests and demands every single day.
That sounds about right.
And then you've got your mama calling you and, about whoever. And it's a lot to navigate. We're in the top of our careers. There's just so many things that we are dealing with. So carving out time for you. I was just talking to Dr. Mindy Pels, who I know you just had on the show recently. And we were talking about the importance of just bookending your day with your self-care, your time. Yeah. Because that messy middle, which is every day, 10 hours of the day, we can really manage our messy middle if we are taking care of ourselves at the very beginning of the day and at the end of the day. And so if that means getting up 10 minutes or 15 minutes earlier than the kids get up, do that favor to yourself. I get up about an hour prior and I go outside, I get sunlight, I take a walk, I make my coffee, I have my green juice. I just take care of me first and foremost before my son wakes up. Because once he's awake, he is running the show. Yeah. Same thing at night. He's asleep by 8:10. Okay. I've got about an hour and a half. I always say you at least have an hour. Yeah. Don't go to Netflix. That is not where you want to spend your time. Really take that time to nourish you, whether that's a beauty routine, it is a wind down routine, just time that really belongs to you where you're regulating your nervous system.
Yeah. What's funny is I wasn't in the habit of wearing my red light face mask, and I find it I got back in the habit of it, and I use I have an old acupressure mat from Dave Asprey. It was bulletproof. It's vintage at this point. It's 2011, 2012.
At least 10 years old.
Yeah. But there's something about that pain, those spikes into my back. And I have this neck roll situation that I lay on because my dad, we just have some spine issues on my dad's side of the family
as well. Yeah.
And I feel constantly looking down at a computer, my kids from breastfeeding, holding them. You're just oh, I just want to roll everything back a few inches. But I have it's a pretty hard neck pillow, but I will lay on that neck pillow, red light, I have this amazing lavender mint tea that I drink every night. My husband's are you sick of that one yet? But I get on a kick, like everyone else. And so I'm on that kick, got the tea, I've got the red light mask, and I swear it's changed everything because my phone doesn't come upstairs anymore. I've got sometimes it's a science book, but I have to read a lot of books for this podcast. So it tends to lean a little bit more nonfiction or fiction, whatever, depending on what I feel
I love a good fiction book. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Yes, please. You're all day I'm reading articles, I'm researching. Let me have this 30 minutes where I just bask in fantasy.
Yeah, give me a little rom-com. Let's do this. Yeah. And I've got my red light, or my blue light blocking glasses. And I swear I hit the pillow. I totally fall. My sleep scores are rocking on Aura. And I'm there's something about this. There's something about this routine. And I'm okay, this is my 2026. Let's go. And for a long time, I was trying to multitask at night and responding to teacher emails and doing all the things. And I'm you know what? I'm not giving myself any time. My kids already wake up at 5:15, 5:30, 5:45. So people are wake up in the 4s. And I'm no,
I wouldn't know. My son luckily wakes up at 7.
That's
so
amazing.
I can get up at 6 and it'd be great.
Yeah. I think there's something there where you're just you have to just own wherever you are in your life and whatever your family situation is. But that critical time of you time, it needs to happen. It's totally
a sacred
does.
act.
So what does yours look like? Tell me about, you got your morning. What does your nighttime look like? Yeah. What do you crave for stability for personal time for when you feel destabilized by all of the things that come with perimenopause? How do you really ground and
This is the game changer. Okay. How we take care of ourselves, how we tend to ourselves. We know that when women are struggling with chronic stress, their symptoms will be exacerbated in perimenopause, which it makes so much sense. Duh. Yeah. Duh. When your system is deregulated, it's no wonder you're extra irritable or you're really struggling to remember where you put your keys. So my nighttime routine really does kick off when my son falls asleep. And I'm the one who cuddles him to bed. Yeah. And mind you, he has an hour routine. From Epsom salt baths with lavender oil. And I mean, it's a pretty nice routine that he has.
It sounds like a spa day. He has. Kingston, sign me up.
Yeah, for real. And it's how did we lose sight of that for ourselves? But we did. So he goes to bed, lights are off by 8:15. And when he's fully asleep, I like slink out of there.
Yep.
I head downstairs. I fill up my water bottle with electrolytes. I love Elements, my favorite. The lemonade salt is
It's the best one.
Oh my gosh, it's so good.
Yeah.
I get my tea. Same with you.
Yeah.
Like it's a sleepy tea with wonderful adaptogens and lavender and chamomile, and it's warm and inviting. And then I take my little supplements. I have a stack.
Okay.
Usually it's omegas, it's magnesium glycinate, it's also turmeric.
Okay.
It's just like reduce inflammation. I take my progesterone. I'm taking that. And then I have all my drinks and all my things, and I just march my butt upstairs into my room, and I just settle in. I do my beauty routine. I also have like a PMF mat that I lay on.
Like higher dose or something else?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Basically, yeah.
Okay.
And I have usually listening to something like affirmations or meditation, and then I am heading into bed. And I read for about, I would say 9:30 to 9:55, but my sleep consistency, like 10 o'clock, I'm asleep.
Okay.
Lights are off by 10.
Okay.
And then I'm up at 6.
Okay.
And yeah, my sleep consistency scores and my sleep score, I don't track with Aura, I track with Whoop.
Yeah.
But in the 90s.
Amazing.
Yeah. And I just honor that. And my brain, my body knows when it's time to go to sleep. Like my cue is so clear and I don't ignore it.
Yeah. Well, I remember you going through a period of time where you were dealing with like mold and having some like personal health issues a few years ago. I feel like, for a lot of women, we go through a period of time, whether it's like an illness or mold or stress, or maybe there's like some destabilization that isn't internal and hormonal, for women who are in like a time where they feel like they can't really take care of themselves. What would be like your top non-negotiables?
I love this question. I'm going through a phase right now of chronic migraines.
Oh.
I have a migraine today.
No,
and so I
sorry.
took all the drugs. I was like, and my husband, he just could tell because there's like this look of pain on my face and all that.
Yeah.
He's like,
you look gorgeous to me, by the way.
Thank you.
It doesn't
He's
look like you're
migraine?
in pain.
I'm like, yes. And it's just, I've been in this spiral of chronic migraines. I think this beautiful book and my being on and off flights for many, many months kind of just added up.
Yeah.
And, I'm in perimenopause myself. Like I am going through the reckoning.
Yeah.
And there are definitely days where, I'm just getting by.
Yeah.
And for me, I always recommend to my patients, I was just talking to a patient of mine just a couple days ago where she just felt so underwater.
Yeah.
And I was like, even if you can just be outside for like 5 minutes, a couple of times a day, just giving yourself a reset. Yesterday, I hit a wall and my son was just, he was having a moment. I could tell I was going to have a moment. And I'm a very gentle, loving, compassionate parent. And I was going to take him to a friend's house to drop off a gift.
Yeah.
And she's just down the street. And I told Alex, my husband, I was like, he's staying home. I'm going to go on this walk. So I watched the sunset at the ocean. We live right next to the ocean. And then I took the gift over and I just had 45 minutes to myself. And it was just, mind you, it was such a luxury. We're talking dinner time.
Yeah.
Like this is very rare. But I was like,
good job,
Mama
Dad.
needs a break. And like, you got this? Because I'm out of here.
Yeah.
And I just knew I needed to be outside. So being out in nature, taking a little walk, having a little moment, sending a voice memo to a friend, like any of those little things that take a couple of minutes, punctuate your day, just give yourself some breathing room.
Yeah.
I would say that's what I would recommend.
Such good advice, because I will say, even Chris knows this in my house, like if I've had a super long day, he'll be like, you want to go down to Creek? That's Salt Creek Beach in Dana Point. And I'm like, yeah. And he'll throw the kids in. We won't have bathing suits. We won't have sand toys. We will literally be like in school uniforms or sweats or sometimes pajamas. And it's just like the minute I walk through the tunnel and I can see the green rolling grass to the ocean, and then I can see the horizon, it does change everything. I do feel like the perspective of the horizon, whether you're at the beach or in the mountains or in the desert, like the open space, the openness of knowing like I am literally like a speck spinning on a rock. Like,
Stardust.
Right.
Yes.
Like to really just be like, what? Like it like, and then it puts you back into a place of perspective and gratitude. And I mean, I'm like a lizard. Like if you can give me sunlight on my face and,
Changes everything.
I'm in the dark with the artificial I'm sure like flickering EMF fluorescence in here. It makes us look great. But like to go out on the balcony of this studio and be like, all right, sun in my eyes, like
It changes everything.
Yeah, it changes everything.
We are light beings.
Yeah.
We are meant to be outside. And there's nothing that helps to regulate our nervous system more than just being outside in nature, just grounding, or even just looking 10 feet out.
Yeah.
You know, we're always in a time where we're in a phone or we're at a computer where we're looking within like 10 inches or 12 inches in front of us. Like just peer out into your backyard at a tree. Maybe there's a butterfly. I was tracking yesterday a hummingbird when I was at the beach.
Yeah.
And I was just watching this hummingbird. It was green and red. It was so beautiful. And it was just so nice. It was so calming. It was so relaxing. Literally, we were talking about minutes.
Yeah. It is crazy. And also to like track that in a way that's like, wow, I got to do something for myself, or I had a minute, or I'm not in a rat race. I'm not going too fast. I'm calming down and noticing. I think if you're listening to this in your car or on a walk, like what can you see? What can you have gratitude for? I mean, I'm so grateful for you for coming on this show and for writing this book and helping us all kind of navigate this period
window
of time that people call like is it a myth? Is it just like you're cycling and then you're not cycling? Like there's this whole transition, and I feel like a lot of us have been either gaslit, or maybe we don't even know that our symptoms are related to these hormonal changes. What's one of the most common misdiagnoses of perimenopause for women?
I would say we're often misdiagnosed as burnout, depression, and anxiety. Okay. So we'll be given antidepressant medication. I think it's like, 60% of women in this demographic are put on antidepressants or anti-anxiety medications. And so we miss the boat. And they're very common symptoms of perimenopause, of the brain desperately looking for estrogen and progesterone. Yeah. And there's a lot of ways that we can support women alongside of hormone replacement therapy. Not to say that antidepressant medication and anti-anxiety medications don't have a place, but I think it's important to note that we should be asking women, like, could this be perimenopause?
Yeah, it most definitely could be.
Yes.
So when you think about that neuroendocrine transition, the sleep issues, the mood issues, the forgetfulness, like obviously anxiety and depression come up for mood. Mm-hmm. For sleep, is it shortened sleep? Am I going to have these I remember my mom going through menopause and having to change her sheets and get out of her pajamas and being soaking wet. That happened to me in postpartum. Sheets were drenched.
Yeah, no estrogen.
You're just like, what is happening?
Me too. Yeah. My first couple of months of postpartum,
it was crazy.
What is going on?
Constantly changing the sheets. Does that happen overnight, or is this something we can start to notice earlier? What do the sleep disturbances look like in perimenopause?
I will say it's case by case, but over 66% of us will struggle with some level of sleep issue, whether that is feeling wired and tired before bed, or really not listening to that sleep cue because we are responding to those emails and handling all the business that we didn't get to from the day before. So important to recognize that. Is it wired and tired? Is it cortisol that's being deregulated? We know that melatonin's declining as well, along with progesterone. You got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
Adding insult to injury. Or is it those late night wakings at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, the early morning, where talk about going into a dark hole of am I ever going to get to sleep again? And so I think initially it can be the wired and tired experience, and then for some women it becomes those early morning wakings. And that's where, again, hormone replacement therapy can be really helpful on top of having a really solid sleep routine and sacred act leading into bedtime.
Yeah.
But, progesterone can be given as an extended release that can help women get through that hump at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
And so there are a lot of solutions that we can be looking at in order to mitigate that.
Definitely. I always think about that 2 or 3 a.m. wake up, not in the perimenopausal phase, but as you might have drank alcohol. Was that a wine wake up?
Oh my goodness. Yeah. I always forget alcohol's been off limits for so long for me. Yeah. I forget that that's even something someone's negotiating with themselves.
Yeah.
But it's absolutely worth looking at.
Yeah.
When are you eating? How late are you eating?
Yeah.
Mitigate the late night eating, mitigate the late night alcohol. Again, it could be alcohol. A blood sugar issue or just get rid of alcohol to begin with.
Yeah.
I can't drink alcohol at all. There's no way.
Yeah. I feel it's not really in vogue anymore. You look at the younger generations and you're like, that's awesome. Let's get them off. Yeah. Let's not make this a cultural norm to be binging alcohol in college and in your early 20s. it's so detrimental in general. And I think like lowering the quantity and the popularity of it is so important for like the overall health of everyone. But when you think about the habits that make perimenopause symptoms worse,
that's one of them.
Alcohol, eating late, anything else?
Yeah, I would say eating late, like you said, alcohol use, especially at dinner or after dinner. I would say also not honoring that sleep routine. So working all the way, being on your phone, being in blue light, not really honoring that sleep cue, and not giving yourself breaks. Yeah. Also community. If you're being in perimenopause, it can be a very isolating time, mainly because we've been taught to feel ashamed of our symptoms and how we're feeling. And so I think that there's a going inward, but this is really the time to double down on friends and people that feel safe to you. Yeah. And so, if you're traversing perimenopause in a very isolated situation, it's going to also increase symptoms and how you're feeling.
Yeah. Making a case for grabbing a friend and going for that
walk.
After bedtime walk or something like that. Yeah.
I would say then if you're walking away with anything from this conversation today, the number one longevity hack I want to bring to the table is movement with friends.
Yeah.
Hiking with friends, tennis with friends, pickleball with friends, even family. But like friends, there's something about that because when you have a friend that is also not remembering what she was supposed to say during a presentation, or she also snapped at her partner, like you are in it together and moving together, having besties that you work out with. I think about my mom who's 65 years old, who is just, I was on the phone with her yesterday, and this woman has beautiful blood labs. Metabolic labs are a chef's kiss. She's got energy. She's training for a marathon, the LA Marathon right now. She is running a half marathon for like a Disney marathon this weekend. This woman is kicking butt and taking names. She plays tennis competitively every single week, and she's about to retire. And she's trying to choose a medical plan. And she's like, but there's nothing wrong with me, so I don't know what to plan for. I'm like, do you know how many women at 65 years old would love to say, there's nothing wrong with me. My health is like peak condition. I was like, this is such a thing to be grateful for. But everything that she does it with her friends, and it's all activity based. Yeah. This woman is thriving. She is such a role model for what we should all aspire to.
I feel like if we took the blue zones and teased out like community and like the friendships and the time they spend outdoor together, being together, it would be less about the food and more about the people and stress reduction.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I mean, it's the biggest predictor of our longevity is friendship and connection. And what if we could build in these beautiful habits where we're doing self-care, or we're moving our bodies, or we're drinking blood sugar-friendly mocktails or sparkling water with our friends, with our community. This is how we build resilience.
Oh, I love it. Yeah. The Perimenopause Revolution, it is available and it's loaded with information on how to advocate for your own health. I can't thank you enough for writing it, for being a voice of reason, for getting women out of their own way, and for letting us stand up for ourselves and not have needless pain and suffering. In today's day and age, there are so many options. So thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Where can people get the book? Where can they follow along?
The best place to get the book and all the bonuses, including blood sugar, metabolically healthy meals, exercise snacks, workout videos. I mean, girl, I did not. You
didn't hold back.
Yeah, I did not hold back because women deserve the best of everything, not the least of things. And I want women to know if they get this book and they get the bonuses, they have everything at their fingertips. Accessibility is number one for me. drmariza.com/book, all the bonuses, all the goodies, and all the extra things that came with the book as well.
Yes, Mariza with a Z. You got it. We'll put it in the show notes. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Be Well by Kelly LeVeque podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please consider leaving a review in your favorite podcast app and subscribing on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. We're also excited to share that full-length video episodes are now on YouTube and Spotify, so you can watch along as you listen. The best way to support me and the show is by sharing it with your friends and family. Your recommendations make all the difference. This is a Wellness Loud production produced by Drake Peterson. The video is recorded by Luke Rodriguez and edited by Jesse Trout. See you next time.
The content of this show is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not a substitute for individual medical or mental health advice and does not constitute a provider-patient relationship. As always, talk to your doctor or healthcare team first. Shout out to the Newport Beach Pendry for hosting us. I'm so grateful to record in such a beautiful space that truly elevates the podcast experience for myself and my guests. From the stunning design to their incredible hospitality, it's a perfect setting for meaningful conversations and creative energy. Hey, thanks, Pendry.